So good morning. So today I'd like to focus on a difficult concept in Buddhism and other Eastern philosophies and religions, and that concept is emptiness. Emptiness. So if you refer to something like the Heart Sutra, which is one of my favorite sutras in the Buddhist you know universe. Uh, if I look at the third section, uh, no, actually, let's start with the second section, and I'll just read that out loud to you for a second. Listen, Sariputra. Sariputra was a very esteemed member of the Buddhist community. This body itself is emptiness, and emptiness itself is this body. This body is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than this body. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Just pointing out that in the Buddhist tradition, this emptiness, this idea of emptiness, is probably one of the more important ideas in the Buddhist tradition. But unfortunately, it's also extremely difficult to wrap your head around this idea, uh, particularly if you're trying to approach it as a sort of intellectual issue. Uh, I don't know how many times that I've read something that contains the idea of emptiness. So other forms that it takes is nothingness, no thingness, uh, not having an individual nature, the lacking a self, uh, all of those things that kind of fall into this category. It's as I said, it's not very easy to understand this idea, this the notion of emptiness. So what I want to do is move from it being an intellectual concept to start to think about it uh, as a practical matter in meditation. And so I think if we do that, it becomes a little easier to figure, to work it into something reasonable, practical about the way you live your life. So uh, let's begin with the idea of potential. So it's not that I'm replacing the idea of emptiness with the idea of potential, but I'm just trying to use it as a way of working through the idea of emptiness. So potential is there is not currently something, but the possibility that something will express itself is there. It's possible. Potential. So I'm thinking of potential as, just for the sake of this, trying to figure out this issue. Uh, think of potential as having two ends of a spectrum. So on one end of the spectrum, I'm going to call that end of the spectrum absolute potential. And when you're talking about absolute potential, that is what can be expressed is a possibility, but it hasn't manifested itself. And so the potential for something to manifest is there, but it isn't currently, there isn't currently a manifestation. And so you might say that when we're thinking about absolute potential, I mean, you're talking about formlessness, you're talking about objectlessness, you're talking about boundarylessness, and uh, if you're focusing on absolute potential as a part of, say, your meditation, it also would be very peaceful, lacking in stressors. Uh, let's go to the other side then. And the other side I'm going to call manifest potential. Manifest potential is where objects begin to express themselves and they come and go and run their course. They appear and disappear. Uh, the laws of impermanence apply here, that nothing really lasts. And uh, this represents probably some of the stresses in our life that are the cause of suffering, pain, and loss. Not being able to hold on to the things, including the I, me, mine, the objects, the thought objects, the mental formations, all those things. Not being able to hold on to them, having them appear and disappear, which is going to be fairly stressful. Okay, now you really couldn't completely live on the side of absolute potential. Just for this example, if how would you start a fire, right? I mean, the absolute potential, is formless, boundaryless, objectless. Uh, you know, there is no object to light up and start a fire with. Okay. On the other hand, manifest potential provides you with wood and matches and a place to start a fire, right? And so it's necessary. The manifest side of this spectrum is necessary. And for all intents and purposes, the absolute potential side of the spectrum is also necessary, because otherwise you live in stress and chaos and pain and suffering. And so ways to find peacefulness are really important. So, okay, let's think about this in terms of meditation. So uh, I want to use the sort of metaphor here, or analogy of a hoverboard. So when you're riding a hoverboard, whichever way you lean, that's the direction the hoverboard is going to take you in. So if I lean towards absolute potential, I'm going to be at peace. I'm going to find serenity. If I lead toward manifest potential, there's the possibility of lighting the fire, there's the possibility of joy expressing itself, but there's also pain and suffering and loss. Now, a hoverboard, if you were to stand perfectly still, stand up straight, not lean in any direction, not backward, side to side, not forward, the hoverboard would stop. Now, from this perspective, in the middle, you might say, you're able to observe in meditation that absolute potential and manifest potential are with each other. They're interpenetrating. They're like otters swimming in and around each other, and in more or less constant flow, constant motion. And you can see this from this particular perspective in meditation, where you're not leaning from side to side, you're not leaning in or out, you're just holding perfectly still. Now, if you carry this out and begin to train yourself to shift, moving from one side to the other side, you're able to have some control. I would call this mental self-regulation. If there's too much of this side, too much stress, too much suffering, too much pain, then you move to this side and you find peace and serenity, calm. And while you're standing perfectly still in the middle, you're able to understand that these are not really two sides of a thing. They're not two sides of a whole, let's say. They are a whole. This is, and in the middle, there is the experience of one, of union of the two sides, being able to be in whatever direction you find to be necessary in the moment. You could think of the symbol of the Tao, and in the symbol of the Tao, you have like the yin side and the yang side, but they're interpenetrating with each other and even contain little circles of each other in their center, because at any given moment, they can become their opposite. So, uh, uh, the idea that you can stand perfectly still in meditation and experience the union of absolute potential and manifest potential while you're holding perfectly still uh, makes this whole idea of emptiness into a much more practical matter. Uh, so emptiness is fullness, fullness is emptiness. There is no real separation between the two. They're not two sides. Even though the yin and yang puzzle, the Tao, seems to show that as the case, it's just a way of, and remember, what we're dealing with here occurs entirely in your mind. So in your mind, you can either flow toward the direction of absolute potential, calm, peacefulness, emptiness, formlessness, boundarylessness, or you can shift in the direction of manifest potential and you're able to start the fire. So that's all I wanted to say on this subject today. And I just wanted to end by uh, the Heart Sutra is one of the shortest sutras that I know of. It's relatively short, and it ends with a mantra that and as mantras go, a lot of mantras are in uh, are you have to be given the mantra by a teacher before you can authentically use it. Well, that's not the case with the Heart Sutra mantra. There is the idea of universality here. This is a sutra and the mantra that, for everybody. And so I just want to share with you the Heart Sutra mantra. Gate, gate, padagate, padasangate, bodhisaha. 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 Gate, gate, padagate, padasamgate, bodhisaha. Roughly translated, the mantra is going, going, gone, gone to the other side being enlightenment, bodhi, and saha is hallelujah. So going, going, gone to the other side, all the way, hallelujah. So thank you for joining me for this brief meditation and talk on emptiness. Be good.